My New Year's trip to the cabin sure got cut short, so as everyone, I'm sitting here thinking about it, miss it, just kind of reminiscing about the early days at the old cabin. Now this scene you're seeing, that's just what I walked up on that first day 30-some years ago in the middle of the winter. The cabin was looking pretty lonely, all decrepit. That was the time that I looked and I walked up, and it looked so eerie inside I didn't even have enough nerve to walk inside and take a look at it. But we came back later and we walked around it and we took some pictures, and there's a few other cabin structures there. The other cabin structure was so rotted away that it couldn't be saved. But this one that was still there, when we finally decided we were going to spend the night out there, we took some plastic out and we kind of got it secured up because it was pretty airy. But we were ready to start our adventures at Martin's cabin. Several weeks after that first winter visit, Richard, Brad, and Tim decided they were going to go up. They had to have another visit, so they headed up there and they skied in. And the only trouble was that we didn't have any firewood. The trees were all younger at that time. There wasn't any dead wood laying around, and it was 30 below that weekend. And they pretty much sat around that stove and got as close as they could because they just could not get warm. You can see, in the end, they had a great time because cabin life is just that good. We used the cabin a lot those first few years. It was new, it was exciting, and everybody wanted to be there. And so we went up there to ski. We'd go up there in the winter most of the time, and this is what it looked like inside. We never really had any time to really clean it up or polish it or anything, but we just enjoyed it so much that we'd go up there and it was fine the way it was laid out. Took in the old stove, the old Coleman stove. We brought in some simple pots and pans, and we just kept changing things over the first few years. But it was pretty rough conditions in there. But again, we were so happy to be there, and we just loved the outdoors and the skiing. And so the inside of the cabin, it just kind of took a back seat to the rest of our enjoyments. There was quite a lot of logging going on, more so than the present day. The timber was being hauled out, so the loggers were out there working. So we had a lot better roads to get back in around. We had a better chance of getting into the east side access to the cabin. Here we're out. We're still 3 miles out though, because the snow you can see the snow is deep enough that there was no other trail in. So, but we'd park, and we had a lot of friends that wanted to come up and check out the cabin, and so by now probably getting up near there maybe been 50 or 60 different people into the cabin by this point. As we were making more and more trips up to the cabin, other people were getting involved. I had a neighbor. He was a lot older than me, but we were kindred spirits. He was a man in the woods, and that's the man on the left here. That's Wayne. I started taking Wayne up there, and Wayne was in his element. He just loved being up there. He just soaking up the woods. And him and I we'd travel at different speeds, different times of day. He was the type of guy, it might be 2 o'clock in the morning, and he'd head out for a moonlight ski and come back a little while later and just really reveled in all that country up there. I don't think I could ever have taken him up there enough times. Anytime we were at the cabin, we ate well. This is one night when I was out. I had some steaks cooking up, and Wayne was on the inside, and he had some onions over the wood stove. And one thing about Wayne is he liked that cabin hot. He really liked it hot. So I was outside, in and out. I didn't notice how hot it was getting in there, and I got the steaks done, and we had the onions, we had our whole meal, and we sat down to eat, and I realized that I just couldn't eat. And I looked over over on the wall, I checked the thermometer, and it was 105 degrees inside that cabin. And I looked over at Wayne and I said, Wayne, we need to make an agreement here. I'm going to let you can have it 90 degrees on the cold wall. But I think that's going to be our limit for you, okay? It's got to be 90 degrees on that cold wall, and you can have it that hot. I allowed Wayne to have the 90 degrees. There was no way that I could sleep at 90 degrees, so I always had my bedrooms of those days. I had it set up outside. I had the bivy sack there, and that way it started to snow, I could pull it over my head. It didn't matter how cold it got. The alternative was at 90 degrees inside, and so this worked out very well for me. As I recall, the coldest I ever slept outside like that was 36 below zero, and that may sound really crazy, but you know, with a couple sleeping bags and the proper clothing and a good balaclava over your head, it was actually a little warm out there some nights. The really nice thing about that arrangement of Wayne being inside, keeping the fire good and hot, and me sleeping outside, is that when I rolled out in the morning, all I had to do was get in that door, and I had it nice and warm. I've had some friends, they sleep out, they camp out, but well, 30 below zero, I can sleep out there, but to crawl out and think I'm going to fix breakfast out in a tent or something at 30 below zero, I like my warm cabin. Whenever Wayne referred to me as he wrote the journal, or if he was telling somebody or anything, I was the boy. He'd say, the boy this, yeah, the boy said that. Well, we had our arrangement that he had to keep it below 90 degrees in there, and it was one night there was a blizzard going on or something, and I was forced to sleep inside. And Wayne never slept a lot. He was up shuffling around oftentimes tonight. We kept a candle burning on the table so we had a little bit of light. I heard him moving around, and the thermometer was over there above my head, above my bunk. That was the cold wall, and that's where he had to keep it below 90 degrees. And I heard him come shuffling over, and I kind of knew he had a light, and he was looking to see what the temperature was. And I saw him, he kind of hesitated, and I heard him say, "Ooh, the boy's not going to like this." And I thought it was a little warm in there, so I'm sure we were probably knocking 100 when he made that statement. Another person that really relished time at the cabin was my friend Hawk. You all know about Hawk's Pond. We've talked about that a lot. Hawk's sitting here alongside the cabin, posing up some shots, put a candle in the window, threw some twigs on her to get a good smoke blast coming out of the chimney, because I mean, we were sitting out there we were in seventh heaven, really having a good time. But I think I'll talk about Hawk in the next little slideshow next week.